Well, he's happy.
That's the Xanax.
I'm stressed. He's happy. We didn't answer your question at all.
I was going to mention that.
Yeah. How do you find a producer? Well, you look around. It starts to at least look at the records you like, and call Rick Rubin, and he's $450,000, and
A track.
you're fucked. Then you can look at, then you can go down the list and look at Nigel Godrich, all the Radiohead records, and Beck. No, he's busy. And find one of us eventually. There's a bunch of great talented people out there. There's a bunch of people in your city, I'm sure, who have the skills necessary to get you started. Again, it's about results. It's about creating an event and making your behavior to that end.
You got to know what you want when you're shopping for a producer. If you don't know what you want, it'll just be a big fucking mess.
And I asked the bands. Sorry to interrupt, but I ask the bands that all the time. What are we trying to do here? Like, it's like, anyone bought a house before? You go to the real estate agent. You say, I want to buy a house. Great. And they say, what kind of house? Well, I want a farmhouse. I want a townhouse. I want a bungalow. Is it brick? Is it wood? Is it green? Is it 3-car garage? 12 bathrooms, pool, right? You say you want to make a record? What kind of record do you want to make?
If you say to the producer, well, it's kind of country, but it's also kind of old country, but it's also kind of pop. It's like,
well, your career's over.
Nothing's gonna happen.
We know some people who make those records. So.
Yeah. But that's a specialty.
Yeah. No, but the point is, and you don't necessarily know everything going into it. Of course, you can't. But having a general life goal and specific life goals is really important. We want to have this happen with our band, and I get the bands to write down what percentage of the success formula, I call it. And it sounds like like Tony Robbins, but what portion of the success formula is personal satisfaction. What part of the success formula is an economic goal? What part of the success formula is, visualizing 5 years from now? And what do you want? Like, I want to be the biggest band in the world. What's a great place to start? And I really like that phrase. What does that mean, for you? And so that's the place to start before you get a record producer, is to figure out what you're trying to do and who you are and why you're doing it. And
it's easy for a record producer when a band walks in and says, we want to be the biggest band in the world. And you go, okay, so how do you propose to do that? Like, what's your game plan to be the biggest band in the world? And funny enough, you can say that, you think you're being an ass, or you potentially could be an ass by asking. They say that, you think, well, that's pretty screwed up.
That's different for me, because I need them to say that, or else I don't want to work with them. They have to. It's
cool.
Different.
No, but point being is, you take them serious. You take a band seriously when they say that, but then they got to have a plan to back up becoming the biggest band in the world. It can't be just a broad generalization. And you'd be surprised how many people do generalize. And generalizing doesn't work when you're making music.
Specific choices along the way. And so once we figured out the success formula, then every piece of activity goes through this filter of choice, and it separates any sort of personal issues. I've never been in arguments with bands ever, because it's like, we're trying to do this, and it's not my record, it's their record. It's really important, but it's also the record for the audience, and I try and making sure that's so the goal is, we're behind making this event for the audience. So is that whatever bass fills, or whatever 7, 12 cymbals, 18 kick drums, all these things, all the decisions along the way are through a filter of what we're trying to achieve at the end goal, the end game, and yes, the end game is to try and, it was funny, I was writing songs with the guy in Dashboard Confessional in the fall. He had some writer's block, and my management sent me down to work with him. And I'm in Florida, and he's got this warehouse 5 times the size of this building here, or at least this area, filled with his equipment, 5 motorcycles. They run their merchandise out of one corner, and he was it's Dashboard Confessional. They sold at Madison Square Garden. They sell 800,000 records every time out. He's Spider-Man 2 soundtrack, and he's kind of disappointed that. He said, we set ourselves a goal of being able to sell out arenas all across Europe on our last tour, and it didn't happen. And I was like, I love you. This is a band that we would all love to have their success. He's got, millions of dollars, done really, really well, and he's not happy. It's fantastic. Like, like, that's just, Dan, that's who I am. It's exciting because his life, he's set himself a goal to, I want to sell out arenas in Europe. He can do it all across America, but he has another agenda. Well, he didn't start out that way 100%, but maybe in his mind he thought, we're trying to, Metric, who are, supposedly an artful band, and they are. But there was a definite, we're trying to get bigger on this record, and by getting bigger, what we did was we made them more themselves as they are. Instead of having the artful pretense, we just went in and got them more, you know what I'm trying to say? So it's the same thing he's saying. It's, you got to get them, it's about the artists, but artist is a bad word. It's about the bands, but it's, having the agenda is really, really important.
I think you answered the question. Thank you.
I hope so. I'm still asking the questions.